Welcome back. Now, the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism is hosting a 2-day environmental stewardship and gender mainstreaming engagement that started yesterday, the 26th of January, and will end today, the 27th of January, at the Windhoek Country Club and Resort. Now, the engagement is under the theme Building State Resilience to Shocks and Disaster. To shed more light, we're joined by Reverend Kauna Schroeder, the Principal Project Manager and Advisor for the Environmental Commission's Office at the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism. Good morning, ma'am, and thank you so much for making time to speak to us.
Good morning, Lot, and thank you very much for having me, and good morning to the viewers as well.
Okay. Starting off, the engagement started yesterday. Perhaps let's inquire as to why the ministry see the need to have this engagement and why it is important.
Maybe just in one sentence, the National Inter-Stakeholder Engagement aims to coordinate government, civil society, private sector, and development partners in terms of this topic, around a unified, gender-sensitive and environmentally grounded response to shocks and disasters, but also strengthening preparedness and rapid responses to what we call shocks and disasters in terms of long-term resilience, but obviously in line with Vision 2030 in our NDP 6.
Okay. Briefly, give us an overview of the theme Building State Resilience to Shocks and Disasters.
The overview of the theme, and I want to add the part that we're not only talking shocks and disasters, we're very specific about this theme where we say environmental stewardship and gender mainstreaming, building response in relation to shocks and disasters. And that's really the overarching theme that we're talking about. And when we're talking about this particular theme, we're talking about the pandemics, COVID-19, for example. We're talking about wildfires. We're talking about drought, floods, and so forth. So the primary objective of this theme and the reason why we say environmental stewardship is because we are first and foremost stewards of the entire environment. And we are looking at how best can we build a whole of society platform that aligns policy, financing, and operational action. Because when we talk about shocks, we also get into economic shocks. COVID-19 has proven to us that when such a level of a pandemic, for instance, happen, that the country goes into economic shocks. Tourism sectors have closed down. People have lost jobs. The country went into, a position where they needed to respond. But were we prepared for this? No, we were not prepared for this. And so we are looking at operational actions across levels of government and non-state actors as to how can we then respond to these droughts, floods, price shocks, and most probably figure out, is it timely, and how equitable and resilient building, rather than purely focusing on ad hoc relief or responses that may not be beneficial to us as a country. So this includes what the work that is being done under the under the Office of the Prime Minister already.
Our country is marked by an arid climate, rich biodiversity, and diverse cultural heritage. Would you say we are facing acute vulnerability to environmental shocks and disasters?
We definitely facing that. Namibia in itself is an arid climate, variable, rainfall and reliance on climate sensitive livelihoods. So as we are focusing on climate sensitive livelihoods and looking at the challenges that we are faced with, under climate change, we need to look at how can we strengthen resilience to this. So climate sensitive livelihoods make us highly exposed to droughts, not only to droughts, to floods as well. And yesterday we heard from the Ministry of Health that it even exposes women to early birth, of children that are birthed prematurely because of the climate temperature. So our rich biodiversity and our cultural assets are also vulnerable, and protecting them is therefore both an ecological and socio economic imperative that we need to focus on.
Okay. Now, what are some of the thematic analysis of Namibia's national efforts on environmental stewardship and gender mainstreaming for state resilience to shocks and disasters?
So the thematic focus areas are basically we are looking at how do we harmonize roles and responsibilities across sectors, across stakeholders. It was evident during the official opening yesterday that there is a need for us to be intentional about how we are coordinating and how we are responding to this. Secondly, to identify priorities and fundable interventions for preparedness and for recovery. And also to ensure that we mainstream gender and community voices into resilience planning. Many a times we really overlook the aspect of gender mainstreaming. And sometimes when we refer to gender, people think that it is only women. No, gender is not only women. Gender speaks to both men and women, but ensuring that we mainstream that. And then the other thematic area on which we're focusing is basically to produce an actionable roadmap that links national plans to regional support and financial mechanisms. Resource allocation is becoming scarce. And so it is important that as sectors, we look at how best we can support one another in order to ensure that resources are used in a manner that would serve the Namibian nation in a proper way. Thank you.
We understand that the engagement will be ending today. What are some of those national objectives for this stakeholder engagement? Is to get a buy-in? Is it to review an existing one? What is the overall objective of this stakeholder engagement?
Um, as I alluded earlier, the engagement is really to ensure that we have a diverse group of participants and that we are all focused on an outcome for the same objective. We have women's groups, we have youth groups, youth representation, traditional authorities, we have the local government, NGOs, private sector. So we have a diverse group of people. And the sessions emphasize on gender, disaggregated data, targeted support measures, and community-led solutions. So policy recommendations need to reflect this. So the engagement is really, really, really that we ensure that when we prioritize early warning or pre-positioned contingency resources and social protection linkages, that we engage in such a way that we shorten response times and target assistance to those most at risk.
Now, we understand that drought and floods exacerbate malnutrition, food and food insecurity, particularly among vulnerable groups. How will this engagement assist vulnerable people?
Can you repeat your question again?
Now, we do understand that, situations such as particularly the issue of drought and floods exacerbate, malnutrition and food insecurity. They make it worse, particularly amongst vulnerable groups. How will this engagement and perhaps assist those that are most vulnerable within our communities?
Yeah. As I said in the previous response, it is important for us to prioritize, early warning and be pre-positioned, because we are promoting community water management, drought resilient livelihoods, and women-led income programs. So interventions can reduce malnutrition and protect household assets before crisis deepens. And this is something, again, that the Minister of Health overemphasized on, and the Ministry of Agriculture is working on under the Food and Agriculture Organization programs to ensure that issues related to food insecurity is effectively addressed. And we can only do this if we understand and prepare ourselves in terms of the early warnings with regards to be it drought, with regards to be it pandemics, or any climate effects that we may have.
Kauna Shuda, thank you so much for making time to speak to us this morning, and we wish you all the best with deliberations on the concluding day, which is today.
Thank you so much for having us once again.